In the heart of the Amazon, a silent killer is watching. It doesn't have teeth, claws, or eyes. But once it touches you, you are no longer the master of your own body. You become a prisoner in your own skin, forced to climb to your death while something else pulls the strings. This isn't a horror movie. This is happening right now under your feet. Before we reveal how this monster is evolving, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We explore the world's most terrifying mysteries every week, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Deep within the emerald shadows of the tropical rainforest, a war is being fought. It is a war without guns, without screams, and without mercy. You might walk past it and see nothing but a common ant climbing a leaf. But look closer. That ant is already dead. Its mind has been erased. Its body has been hijacked by a biological intelligence that is as ancient as the dinosaurs. It's called Cordyceps, and it is the master of a dark art we are only beginning to understand. Welcome to a world where nature doesn't just kill, it consumes your very will to exist. If you lost control of your hands and feet right now, but your mind remained awake, what would be your biggest fear? Tell me in the comments. And if you're brave enough to explore the darkest corners of our planet, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We are on a journey to 1 million subscribers, and every single one of you matters. Now, let's witness the birth of a monster. The nightmare begins with a single, invisible flake, a spore. It drifts through the humid air, landing softly on the exoskeleton of a carpenter ant. To the ant, it's nothing, but the spore is alive. Using a specialized cocktail of enzymes, the fungus begins to melt through the ant's tough armor. It doesn't rush. It breathes. Once inside, the fungus flows into the ant's bloodstream like a river of toxic ink. But here's where it gets truly strange. Most parasites head for the brain. Cordyceps doesn't. It avoids the brain entirely. Why? Because it needs the ant's mind to stay alive just long enough to witness its own destruction. The fungus begins to grow long, tubular filaments that wrap around the ant's muscles, creating a secondary nervous system. The ant is now a passenger in its own body. It tries to return to the colony, to its family, but the puppet master has other plans. The hijacked ant begins to behave erratically. It leaves the safety of the trail, twitching as the fungal network tugs at its legs like a marionette. The other ants in the colony notice the change. They see the convulsive movements, the lack of pheromone response. In their world, there is no mercy for the infected. If the guards catch the zombie ant, they will tear it apart and carry the pieces far away to protect the queen. But the fungus knows this. It forces the ant to stay hidden, lurking in the shadows of the undergrowth, waiting for the perfect moment. As the sun reaches its zenith, the chemical control becomes absolute. The fungus requires a very specific environment to complete its cycle, exactly 25 centimeters above the forest floor, on the north side of a leaf, with precise humidity levels. It's a level of engineering that defies logic. The ant is forced to climb. Every step is a struggle against its own biology, but the fungus is stronger. It drives the ant upward, away from the life it knew, toward its final resting place. When the coordinates are met, the fungus sends one final, devastating command: bite. The ant sinks its mandibles into the central vein of the leaf with a strength it never possessed in life. This is the death grip. The muscles in the jaw are then chemically locked. The ant is now anchored to the leaf, a permanent monument to the parasite's power. Now the slow, gruesome transformation begins. The ant's internal organs are systematically digested and replaced by fungal tissue. The hollow shell of the insect is reinforced to act as a fortress. For days, the forest remains silent, but then a terrifying spear erupts from the back of the ant's head. A dark, stalk-like fruit grows toward the sky, pulsating with millions of new spores. It is a biological tower of death, positioned perfectly to rain down its toxic offspring onto the unsuspecting colony passing below. The cycle is ready to begin again, and the forest floor is littered with the silent, empty husks of those who dared to walk through the invisible fog of spores, But the horror of the Cordyceps is not confined to a single species of ant. Nature has allowed this parasite to diversify into a specialized army of assassins. Each strain of the fungus has evolved to target a specific victim. Some hunt spiders, others infect beetles, and some even go after predatory wasps. This biological precision is terrifying because it suggests the fungus is constantly studying its hosts, learning their unique nervous systems, and finding the exact chemical key to unlock their movements. It is a targeted strike that never misses, a silent evolution that has been perfected over 48 million years. As the stalk rises from the dead host, it doesn't just release spores. It releases a warning to the entire ecosystem. Scientists have discovered that when a colony of ants senses the presence of a zombie in their midst, the atmosphere changes instantly. The social structure fractures. The healthy ants will physically carry the infected individual miles away, sacrificing themselves to the heat of the sun or the jaws of predators just to keep the spores away from the nursery. They understand, in a primal way, that this is not just a disease, it is an invasion of the soul. Yet, the most disturbing revelation comes from recent laboratory studies. When researchers looked at the cellular level, they found that the fungus doesn't just control the muscles, it communicates with them. The fungal cells form a massive, interconnected web throughout the body, almost like a supercomputer made of mycelium. This web pulses with its own rhythm, overriding the ant's natural impulses. While the ant's brain is still technically alive, it is effectively unplugged from the rest of its anatomy. It is a living witness to its own body being piloted by a mindless, hungry intelligence. But what happens when the environment changes? As global temperatures shift and humans encroach further into the deep jungles, these parasites are being forced to adapt. In some areas, the fungus has begun to show signs of increased resilience, surviving in conditions that should have killed it. This raises a question that keeps biologists awake at night. Could a parasite that has spent millions of years mastering the art of hijacking complex nervous systems ever make the jump to a larger host? We often think of ourselves as the top of the food chain, protected by our complex brains and advanced medicine. But to a fungus that can bypass the brain entirely and seize control of the muscle fibers, a human is just a larger vessel with more resources. In the hidden corners of the world's most remote forests, the puppet master is still evolving, still waiting, and still raining down its invisible seeds of control. Every time you breathe in the damp air of a forest, you are inhaling a world of potential invaders. The line between being the master of your fate and a passenger in your own body is thinner than a microscopic spore. The scale of this biological conquest becomes even more unsettling when we look at the fossil record of fear. In ancient leaves preserved for nearly 50 million years, we see the exact same bite marks, the same death grip, proving that this parasite has been perfecting its hijack of life since before humans even walked the earth. It is a perfect predator because it doesn't need to hunt. It simply waits for life to happen. But what if the fungus isn't just a killer? Some researchers suggest that the Cordyceps acts as a dark architect of the forest, a regulator that prevents any one species of insect from becoming too dominant. It maintains the balance by turning the successful into the sacrificed. It is a grim reminder that in the natural world, success often carries a heavy price. The more a colony grows, the more attractive it becomes to the spores drifting in the wind. Now, imagine the perspective of the fungus itself. It possesses no eyes, no ears, and no central heart. Yet, it can navigate a complex three-dimensional environment with better accuracy than a GPS. It can sense the light levels, the pheromones of its enemies, and the exact moment when the wind is perfect for a launch. It is a hive mind contained within a single microscopic organism, a ghost in the machine of life. As we look deeper into the zombie phenomenon, we find that the fungus has developed a way to protect its prize. While the ant's body is being consumed, the fungus produces potent antibiotic chemicals to keep other bacteria and competing fungi away. It is literally keeping its victim clean so that it can have the entire meal to itself. It is a morbid form of preservation, ensuring that the puppet remains intact until the very moment the final spear erupts from its head. We are now entering an era where we are trying to harness this power. Scientists are studying these fungal chemicals to create new types of medicine and even biological pesticides. But there is a fine line between using a tool and being used by it. The more we manipulate the genetics of these puppet masters, the more we risk opening a door that was meant to stay shut. In the quiet of the night, in the deepest reaches of the jungle, the stalks continue to grow. They don't care about human progress or scientific discovery. They only care about the next host, the next climb, and the next bite. This Stalin's organ of the natural world is playing a symphony of extinction, and we are just now starting to hear the music. As the spores settle on the ground, waiting for the next vibration of a passing leg, we have to ask ourselves, are we truly the masters of our world, or are we just waiting for the right spore to land? The reach of the puppet master extends beyond the physical manipulation of a single host. It suggests a terrifying mastery of chemical warfare. Once the fungus has anchored its victim, it begins to excrete secondary metabolites that alter the very environment around the corpse. These chemicals act as a localized cloaking device, masking the scent of decay that would normally attract scavengers. By keeping the body hidden from birds and larger insects, the fungus ensures its launch pad remains undisturbed for the weeks required to mature. It is a calculated, cold-blooded strategy that treats a living being as nothing more than a perishable piece of hardware. But the most chilling aspect for us as humans is the concept of host jumping. Throughout history, pathogens have crossed the species barrier, from birds to pigs and from primates to humans. While our internal body temperature currently acts as a natural furnace that cooks most fungal spores before they can take root, the planet is warming. As fungi adapt to higher ambient temperatures in the wild, the thermal gap between the forest floor and the human body is narrowing. We are witnessing the evolution of a predator that is learning to survive in the heat, slowly bypassing the one biological barrier that has kept us safe for millennia. Imagine the societal implications if a variant of this neural hijacker moved into the mammalian world. It wouldn't look like a Hollywood movie with mindless groaning monsters. It would be subtle. It would start with a slight change in behavior, a pull toward specific locations, an inexplicable urge to seek out high-traffic areas where spores could be spread most effectively. The puppet master doesn't need to kill us instantly. It only needs us to move. It would turn our cities into its nurseries and our transit systems into its delivery veins. In the deep research labs of the world, mycologists are finding that these fungi possess a form of memory. If a fungal colony is faced with a specific obstacle, it learns how to bypass it, and that information is passed down to the next generation of spores. They are not just organisms. They are biological algorithms, constantly updating their code to solve the problem of life. They have survived 5 mass extinctions. They have seen the rise and fall of countless empires. And as they wait in the damp, dark corners of our world, they remind us that the most successful life forms aren't the ones with the biggest brains, but the ones that can control the brains of others. The story of the Cordyceps is a mirror held up to our own arrogance. We believe we are the protagonists of the Earth's story, but we may just be the environment for a much older, much more patient intelligence. Every breath you take in a crowded room, every touch of a damp wooden railing, every walk through a summer forest is a gamble with a master of the game. As the final spores of our story drift into the air, ask yourself, is that sudden urge to stay a little longer in the woods truly yours, or is something else already pulling the strings? This concludes our deep dive into the silent invasion. The next time you see an ant on a leaf, don't just see an insect. See a warning. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and most importantly, stay in control. The complexity of this mind control doesn't stop at simple movement. Recent breakthroughs in mycology have revealed that the fungus actually produces hallucinogenic compounds that are structurally similar to those found in LSD and psilocybin. But while a human might use these substances for a spiritual journey, for the ant, it is a chemical cage. The fungus is literally flooding the host system with fake reality. It's theorized that the ant isn't just being moved, it is being tricked into thinking it is doing something else. Perhaps it thinks it's finding the ultimate food source, or perhaps it's following a queen that no longer exists. The puppet master doesn't just hijack the muscles, it hijacks the host's desires. Now, let's look at the spore rain. Once the fungal stalk has fully matured, it doesn't just release its payload all at once. It monitors the air pressure and wind speed. It waits for the exact moment when a gust of wind can carry the spores the maximum distance. This isn't a random burst. It's a calculated launch. Each spore is shaped like a tiny aerodynamic dart, designed to pierce the air and stick to the first thing it touches. This is why entire graveyards of ants are found in the jungle. Thousands of empty husks, all frozen in the same death grip, all within a few feet of each other. These are the killing zones, areas where the air is so thick with invisible spores that any insect passing through is effectively a dead man walking. But there is a darker side to this story that involves us. While we study these fungi to understand nature, the military-industrial complex is looking at them as a masterclass in autonomous systems. Engineers are trying to replicate the fungal network's ability to coordinate thousands of individual units without a central brain. They call it swarm intelligence. If a simple fungus can coordinate a mass invasion of a colony with zero communication, imagine what a swarm of AI-driven drones could do using the same mathematical principles. We are taking the most terrifying strategy of the natural world and encoding it into our machines. And then there's the question of the giant fungi. In the ancient past, during the Carboniferous period, fungi grew to the size of trees. Prototaxites, as they were called, dominated the landscape. While we don't have evidence that these giants were parasitic in the same way, the genetic potential for massive fungal structures still exists in the Earth's DNA. If the environment shifts, if the oxygen levels change, or if a specific mutation occurs, we could see the return of fungal titans. A world where the puppet master isn't just a millimeter long, but large enough to cast a shadow over a city. This is the hidden reality of our planet. We focus on the big predators, lions, sharks, bears, but the real masters of the earth are invisible, silent, and incredibly patient. They don't need to chase you. They just need to wait for you to breathe. They are the silent architects of life and death, turning the world into a massive, interconnected stage for their endless puppet show. Every time you see a mushroom sprouting from fallen log, or a patch of mold in a damp corner, you're looking at a relative of the world's most successful hijacker. The mystery deepens when we examine the wood wide web, the vast subterranean network of mycelium that connects almost every plant in the forest. While we often think of this as a cooperative system, the Cordyceps has learned to exploit these highways of information. It acts like a hacker on a global network, intercepting the chemical signals sent between trees and plants. By tapping into this underground internet, the fungus can sense the approach of a massive insect migration weeks before it arrives. It prepares its spores, synchronizing its growth with the heartbeat of the forest itself. It is not just a parasite of an insect, it is a parasite of the entire ecosystem's communication system. In laboratory settings, scientists have tried to outsmart the fungus. They have removed the ant's mandibles, thinking that without the death grip, the cycle would break. But the puppet master simply adapted. Instead of a bite, it forced the ant to wrap its legs around the leaf in a permanent, muscular spasm that was even harder to break. This suggests that the fungus isn't just following a rigid script. It is capable of real-time problem solving. It possesses a form of tactical flexibility that we usually only associate with higher-brained animals. It knows when its plan is being thwarted and finds a workaround. Even more disturbing is the discovery of hyperparasites. In a strange twist of natural justice, there are other fungi that have evolved to hunt the Cordyceps. These secondary invaders wait for the stalk to erupt from the ant's head, and then they attack the stalk itself, mummifying the mummifier. This creates a multi-layered war of the worlds, all happening on the back of a single dead ant. It is a world of endless betrayal where the hunter is always being hunted by something smaller, quieter, and more patient. If we look at the chemical composition of the fungus during the final stages of the infection, we find something truly alien. The Cordyceps produces a specific set of proteins that are not found in any other kingdom of life. These proteins seem to be designed specifically to interact with animal DNA, acting like microscopic keys that can unlock and rewrite the genetic instructions of the host. We're only now beginning to sequence these proteins, and what we are finding is a library of biological commands that could potentially be used to treat or cause neurological disorders in humans. Consider the great silence of the rainforest. In areas where the fungal infection rate is high, the silence is heavy. The birds avoid these zones, sensing that the insects they prey upon are tainted. The very air feels different, charged with the static of millions of invisible spores waiting for a host. To enter these zones is to step into a cathedral of death, where every leaf is a tombstone and every breeze is a delivery system for a mind-altering invader. This is the ultimate expression of the fungus's power. It can terraform an entire environment into a specialized factory for its own reproduction. As we move toward the final chapters of this biological saga, we must look at the extreme resilience of the spores themselves. They have been found in the upper atmosphere, frozen in the ice of the Himalayas, and even surviving the vacuum of space in simulated environments. They are the ultimate survivors, designed to wait for centuries if necessary. They are patient in a way that humans cannot comprehend. To a fungus, 1,000 years is just a pause between breaths. They are not in a hurry to conquer us. They have all the time in the world. The implications of this silent mastery take an even darker turn when we observe the fungus's ability to manipulate time itself. In some documented cases, the Cordyceps has been seen to delay the death grip command for days, waiting for a specific seasonal shift or a change in the host colony's migration patterns. It isn't just reacting to the environment, it is predicting it. This biological foresight allows the fungus to maximize its impact, ensuring that when the spores finally rain down, the forest floor is at its most crowded. It is a level of tactical patience that suggests the fungal network operates on a scale of intelligence we have yet to fully define. Beyond the jungle, we are finding traces of these behavioral hackers in the most unexpected places. In the deep oceans, certain parasites control the swimming patterns of shrimp, forcing them to head toward the light where they are easily eaten by birds, allowing the parasite to enter its next life cycle. In our own cities, certain fungal strains have been linked to changes in the behavior of rodents, making them lose their fear of predators. We are surrounded by a world of puppeteers, and we are only now realizing that the will of an organism is often just a byproduct of its internal passengers. If we look at the evolutionary trajectory of the puppet master, we see a trend toward increasing complexity. Millions of years ago, the fungus might have only caused simple paralysis. Today, it manages a multi-stage, high-precision hijacking operation. If this trend continues, the next stage of evolution could involve social hijacking. Imagine a fungus that doesn't kill the individual, but instead subtly alters its behavior to make it more beneficial to the fungal colony's spread. This is the ghost in the machine theory, where the host remains alive and functional, but its life's work is unknowingly dedicated to the expansion of its parasite. Scientists are now exploring the fungal consciousness theory. Because the mycelium network shares many structural similarities with the neural pathways of the human brain, some believe the entire forest floor acts as a single giant mind. In this scenario, the Cordyceps isn't an individual killer, but rather a specialized finger of this giant organism, reaching out to harvest resources. When you step into a forest, you aren't just walking among trees. You're walking on a brain that is millions of years old, and it is perfectly capable of sensing your presence through the vibrations of your footsteps. This brings us to the ultimate question of our 20-minute descent into the dark. What is the purpose of it all? Is it just a blind, biological urge to survive, or is there a deeper intent behind the control? As we look at the empty shells of the ants, frozen in their final, silent screams, we realize that nature doesn't value the individual. It values the cycle. The puppet master is a reminder that we are all part of a larger, much more complex machine, and the roles we play may not be entirely our own. As the light fades and the mist rolls into the canopy, the stalks of the dead continue to stand guard. They are silent sentinels of an invisible empire. They have been here since the beginning, and they will likely be here long after the last human city has crumbled into the earth. The puppet master doesn't need to win a war against us. It has already won the war of time. Every spore that drifts past your face, every fungus that grows in the dark, is a piece of a puzzle that we may never solve. The only thing we know for certain is that the strings are being pulled, and the show must go on. But perhaps the most chilling realization is that this isn't just a story about an ant and a fungus. It is a story about the fragile illusion of control. We live our lives believing we are the masters of our thoughts, our movements, and our destinies. Yet in the deepest, most ancient parts of the world, nature proves that the soul can be hijacked and the body can be turned into a vessel for a mindless, hungry intelligence. As the spores of the Cordyceps settle into the soil, waiting for the next vibration, the next breath, and the next host, they remind us that the world belongs to the patient. Empires rise and fall, technology advances beyond our wildest dreams, but the puppet master remains unchanged, perfecting its art in the shadows of the forest floor. It has waited for millions of years, and it is prepared to wait millions more. So, the next time you feel a sudden, inexplicable urge to change your direction or a shiver that you can't quite explain, don't just brush it off. Look closely at the world around you. In the invisible fog of life, the strings are always being pulled. The only question is, who or what is pulling yours? Thank you for embarking on this 20-minute journey into the darkest corners of our planet. If this story made you look at the world a little differently, share it with someone who thinks they are in control. Subscribe to join our exploration of the unbelievable, and stay tuned for our next descent into the mysteries of the unknown. Until next time, keep your eyes open and watch where you step.